Well, look at this. Now, there are two ways you can look at the PGA Championship as we welcome you in. Ben Rasa over there at Jazz Raz DFS. I'm at Shander Show. I'm Eytan Shander on Putting for Dough. We appreciate you being part of us. Of course, this big, major golf community that we have specifically for you on the Odd Shopper Golf channel. So thumbs up, subscribe. We have a lot of good stuff we're going to talk about, not just the Charles Schwab, and we have to look back. I'm going to look back, as we all are going to look back. But I have to be honest, Ben Rasa, because I think that there are two ways in which you can think of or just look at what happened. And if you don't believe and think this is just one of the Shander's crackpot theories here, go check the PGA Twitter account. All right. You're all over Twitter. You're our in-house Twitter bug, if you will. Right. So here's what I saw. I saw two tweets congratulating Liv's finest, right? I saw two tweets congratulating Koepka about his win. And one of those tweets was a video that you had to wait like 10 seconds just to see who it was about. Guess what the other 15 tweets were all about? Just take a guess. Michael Block.
The Block man.
That's all you like. I got to be honest, the PGA owes Michael Block a lot because they couldn't do this with Scotty Scheffler or anybody else coming close. It's almost like they got off the hook that they didn't have to celebrate one of Liv's finest.
More fair than not. I mean, it was just you couldn't make that up even if you tried, particularly not even the hole in one, which is ridiculous.
Come on.
It went in on the fly.
Come on.
Just what are we doing?
He had the script.
Come on now.
He had the script.
I didn't have the script. I wish I had the script. My script? No, not the script for Oak Hill. I did not think it would. It's not even that I definitely got the course wrong. It's not that I didn't think it was going to be hard, but man, it was just different than I anticipated. Don't think it would have got me to Brooks anyway, but
no, I get it.
It was interesting. You get that at really hard courses. You see elite players struggle. Some big names miss the cut. I thought my biggest takeaway was, Hovland. I mean, Brooks is, of course, in his own category, but Hovland did not lose the tournament. The bunker where he plugged 16, that was a killer, but he played really well. I thought he putted well. Rory, just typical Rory, like always in contention without actually ever being in the tournament. So it's just one of those. But Brooks, I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. He's got a blueprint for success at that exact U.S. Open style formula. He's done it time and time and time again.
Honestly, I don't think that it would have brought. I mean, look, we brought up Hovland here on the show, so that would have been a show victory by all means if he was able to close that out. He was one of our guys. But beyond that, I don't think that we would have got to Koepka if there was any readdressing of the conditions of the course, just everything that we had to deal with. It was a massacre at times, by all means. And then you saw on Sunday, right? It wasn't just Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay. Now, granted, you had the Sepp Strakas of the world, a nice little push towards the end. But exactly, just to fuck with people's finish. But ultimately, you did see some guys who were still there pushing when things were a little more controllable, if you will. But ultimately, this was a bloodbath more often than not. And the conditions, the course, that's what they wanted. That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted this to be the U.S. Open and East Coast just bloodbath.
They did. And they got that. And I thought it was a pretty fair test. You didn't see many complaints from the players. It does speak to one of the many things. You know what bailed me out in golf? There was really no success on DFS. There was no success in the outright markets. My matchups and my three balls were fine, though. And that really did help. I was able to short some guys in those markets because Neiman and DJ and Fitzy and Finau and Fleetwood, those types, they really didn't grab much of anything for me in the outright markets.
All right, so big look ahead now. I'm curious, before we have the Charles Schwab, let's just end the PGA with kind of a macro look.
Mercifully.
And I get it, but we've got Memorial coming up. What's the big Charles Schwab before that? I don't know, based on the type of like Koepka's not going anywhere, right? Like majors, the live tournament is not going anywhere. So these guys are going to be coming back, and it's probably going to put the average bettor on higher notice than not. Although I do think Koepka was a sexy pick, even outright in any market. But
Yeah.
Is there a big picture takeaway? Because look, you're going to have a couple of big major events coming up, but I don't know how like Victor Hovland, it's pretty special to see him get close and close. And you just figure, all right, at some point he's going to get over the top. We talked about Koepka. He's not going anywhere. Scotty Scheffler had a gigantic Sunday, and that doesn't get just discarded like Sepp Straka because it's Scotty Scheffler, and he's capable of doing that now. Maybe it's Rahm, maybe it's Finau, maybe it's somebody else that struggled.
My takeaway is kind of the same always. I was one that, I liked a lot of live guys last week. I just chose the wrong one. They're clearly going to be a factor for a while. The good live players are still really good. We know that. My biggest takeaway is that there are 4 majors a year, and there's 25 guys that everyone expects to grab at least one major every year. And just do that math. I mean, how many guys are knocking on the door for their first major? It's got to be what, 10 to 15 legitimate threats. Xander and Cantlay and Hovland when Will Z gets back, Finau, Fleetwood, just a million guys. And then there's, Rory hasn't won in a decade. He's got to get a couple more. Brooks seems to win every major.
Amazing.
Rahm's the best player in the world. Scheffler is there every week. And then you've got the Reeds and the Fitzies and the Deckies and the guys that have won. There's just not that many to go around. And that doesn't include, the Gary Woodlands of the world who pop up once randomly and steal a major.
That's a good point, especially when
crazy. Spieth. Oh, Spieth's got to get some. I mean, obviously he rattled off. I could go on and on with and I'm missing players. Cam Smith, again, Cam Young, another guy he's going to get his majors. How difficult. They can't all get them. So there are going to be great players that are going to be waiting for quite a while to get their major.
All right, let's look at the Schwab here. We're back in Texas, and it's pretty, Colonial is pretty predictable. I think that's pretty much it. Every now and again, a guy like Sam Burns, Jason Kokrak is a little bit back end burner here, but a guy like Sam Burns will come through and power his way. But for the most part, even blasting the ball off the tee, you're not really rewarded for that. You're going to have to be accurate, and it's not super long in the sense of, you have the 2 par 5s. One you're not going to get to, the other you are going to get to no matter what, especially if you hit 2 good shots, you'll be on there. But there's also the stress, and we always talk about this. Bent grass, the putting is fine, but approach shots. Maybe more, Ben, for Colonial than any or most other places. You're going to find a lot of stress on approach from 200 in as opposed to just longer iron, which is, a nature of this course here, which may put the spotlight on some other guys. So I know we kind of blend the two together, your overall picture of Colonial on top of who you think fits the best with that. And looking at some of these odds too, knowing that there's some pretty big names in this for a non-elevated event.
Yeah, this is a good field, solid field. It's a solid course. You mentioned it's almost the inverse of last week where you needed a ton of 200 plus iron shots, and then you got some short wedges when you had to lay up. Here, all your iron, not all, but the majority of your iron shots are 125 to 175 because you're not going to overpower off the tee. You're not going to have crazy long distances in. And you're also not going to just have really short wedges. So just being able to handle that, bent grass, technical track. We've seen this for 100 years straight. Colonial's awesome. When I look at the board, Scheffler's in an island inside 5 to 1. I think obviously you want the best chance of a winner, you should pick him. I'm not going to pick him at 4.5 to 1. I'm going to get right to it because there's big names who played well. The one guy who was he straight no-showed last week was Sungjae Im. Yeah, I see you hovering over Tony Finau. He half no-showed.
It was worse. He made the cut and then screwed anybody and everybody over, especially in DFS. Not me.
My God. I mean, Sungjae was non-competitive. I'm not going to blame going to Korea, but clearly that doesn't look like a great decision in hindsight. He simply just didn't have it, but in a way, if your guy, and we've seen this, look at the winners of Colonial after a major. Most of the guys, a lot of the guys, they were nowhere in the major proceedings. So it's not a big deal that he missed the cut. If you think the game is fine, and I do, he can get wedges in his hands, short irons in his hands. He won at Honda. He gained strokes everywhere. A technical track, I think, is better for Sanjay. If you shop this, you can find around 20-1. You see 18-1 on DraftKings right now. I'll get my card started with one name up here, and that will be Sanjay M.
I like it, man. I absolutely like it. I don't have anybody above. Actually, no, there's one guy that I think is worth a look here. 16-1. You probably want to shop. He's going to be in this range. I don't expect him to be in this Max Homa, Sam Burns range by any means, but I understand that putting is going to have to put him over the top. But a guy like Morikawa, especially in this type of off the tee scenario, as accurate as he can be, as far as beyond just off the tee accuracy, but with these approach shots, these special approach shots that we talked about, he's a guy that I think meets a lot of this course criteria. And you're going to get a better number with him at 18-1 by all means. But I just thought it was worth a reference just to mention, if anything, real quick, because I don't have anybody really to look at before we get to, and I'm just going to do it before you do it. We get to Ricky here.
Oh boy. No, I'll leave that to you. Yeah. I mean, Morikawa almost won this event in 2020, dismantled it with his irons. He gained it's a weird, the only thing I'll say about him, he gained strokes across the board last week, but he didn't really contend either. And that's disappointing considering when his putter is flat, you'll sign for that. You're a Morikawa backer. But all right, talk up another, again, you want to know why my week in DFS was a disaster. Typical Ricky, missed the cut on the number. I'd rather have that than play 36 holes and get mutilated even more in terms of this week. But this is this a spot for Ricky to come back?
So, here's the thing. Like I feel like between the two, Ricky Fowler has a better chance of winning. If I were playing top 10, if I were playing top 20, if I were playing a matchup, then I would look at Fleetwood. But for winning, I feel like Ricky Fowler just has a better chance of winning than another guy at 30-1. Now, look, I have no argument if you are just waiting to come back and say, well, I'm going to jump on Cam Davis at 40-1 before everybody else does and drops this thing to maybe 35 to 30, somewhere in that range. No problem whatsoever. And we can trump Ricky. But Ricky's a guy that's getting off. Like when you look at when Ricky Fowler was playing well, the things he was doing well fit Memorial super well. So Colonial. I don't think that, right? Like you can't ignore that. And you can't ignore the fact that there were times in which we saw Fowler just playing exceptionally well, this return to form. That's why he's sitting at 30-1, not 50, 55-1. And we're not stretching a 90-1 guy saying, well, he's got two things that really work here. The reality, and you mentioned it, I heard you, it's Fowler when he's on, this is a place you want to be at. So I'll take a shot at 30-1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, again, the number, it leaves a little to be desired, but that's just a product of the field. Same with Fleetwood. Fleetwood's got 0 career PGA Tour wins. He's playing fantastic. Even last week, I know he didn't have it. He still gained strokes across the board. So I'm fine with these. I have not bet either Ricky or Fleetwood yet. They're not on my initial card. Going to give them good looks. You mentioned, I think Fleetwood will continue to make an extremely strong top 20 play. Ricky's probably a little more volatile. Rose is there. Henley is there. I'm indifferent to them. Yeah, there we go. Scroll it down for me. And no, not Chris Kirk. Get Steven Yeager. Steven Yeager is, this is where I think it opens up. I'm just going to keep buying. This is an experiment. I believe this guy's got all the talent. He's a putting week away. We saw him. He's gained strokes putting once since January, just once. And it was at Byron Nelson, and he came in 11th. He made the cut last week in a major. The guy is taking steps in his career. He's made 8 of 9 cuts on tour. Is he ready to win? I have no idea. That's probably a stretch. But you're talking 60, 70-1 out there in a field that is not top to bottom as strong as some of the others. So I think this is a prime range. There's a lot of names here you could tell me, from Benny on to Griot to Bez. All these guys deserve consideration this week. And now you're just scrolling into the depths. What are you doing?
I was just seeing how far we can go before you mentioned something. All right. So, yeah, I think you're right. We're in this point here where
This is the best range in the outright market to me.
Yeah, I agree. There are a couple of guys. Taylor Moore is interesting at 65-1, but Jaeger at 60-1. So you're still kind of in that mid-range area. You mentioned Bez. Bez is a guy that I think when you're looking at certain things that we mentioned specific, right, to this course, like just being deadly or being one of the best in the field from ranges of 200 in, 175 to 2, 150 to 175, stuff like that. That's where I think you can definitely target a guy like Bez at 75-1. I think he makes a lot of sense. If you were to go, I think if you start to look a little bit here, this is a name that has popped up that is competing, and he's probably a better top 20, top 40 candidate. But what do you think about Eric Cole?
So Eric Cole is kind of a tricky one for me because this is a guy that he was really never on my radar, and we saw him come out of nowhere early in the season at Honda, which again, I just comped that with Sanjay. So I'd be kind of hypocritical if I didn't say I didn't like that. He was great last week. Now, he did it all around the green. This guy's developing a really crafty short game. He's made 3 or 4 cuts, top 5 in Mexico. I don't know what Eric Cole's ideal track is. I can't picture it in my mind. I don't think I know enough about him, but there's a chance it's something like Colonial. Just knowing he's not overpowering courses out there by any stretch. So I would rather go with a known commodity in Bez or Griot, obviously, for me. Griot loves this place, by the way. He absolutely loves Colonial. But Eric Cole, I get why you're clicking that.
Last one for me, just to throw a little long shot out at you.
Nasty Nate?
Well, maybe. Let's remind the world, though, what we're doing here, of course, with Bet365. So you have to be 21 or older. Gambling problem, as you know, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21, as I mentioned. It's going to take you 60 seconds to sign up below. New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, Virginia. Put $10 in. Bet $1. Bet $1 on a large outright market. Nate Lashley, something like that. It doesn't matter. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Either way, you get $200 in bonus bets. And you can see Ben's face. That's another opportunity for people to see your face up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's you can sign up for this in spite of that. But everything else about this offer is fantastic. Yeah, just shout out for Bet365. Really good book, particularly with golf. Honestly, I know everyone here is watching Chopper Golf. One of the best. And it's just, if you're lucky enough to be in those states, take advantage. It's right below 60 seconds, $200 in the account.
All right. So pretty good representation right now of where we've been so far. Right. Now, I'll pull the board back up here. I did want to just, do you look, Lashley is Nasty Nate is just a guy, is an example of a guy, if you wanted to just hyper focus on like a little accuracy off the tee, striking, solid wedge approach from like 200 in, and being decent to pretty good on bent grass. There are a lot of things that are going wrong with his game, but that's why he sits at $150-1, and the field has pushed him down a little bit. Don't get me wrong, but you could focus on one or two things and say, all right, well, a guy like that could pop up as far as a major long shot.
Yeah, I think when you go here, you have to use it in the context. It's not about 150-1 to me. Maybe you add that for a free bet or something fun.
Right.
It's more about how realistic can he get in the hunt? And he's been on fire with his irons. He's making cuts. I think winning the tournament, like most people, would be a stretch. Top 20, top 40, top 10, 12-1. That's the type of stuff in this range I think you really got to start looking to. So to sum up my card, I'll get right to it. I like Sanjay at the top. You mentioned the 2 guys at 30-1 in Ricky and Fleetwood. I'm looking more into them. And then I am going aggressive from 60 to about 85-1 if you shop it. Jaeger, Bez, Griot, Detry is there as well. Benyon is there. These are names that I really think belong within the card, and then you will whittle it down when you see tee times, when you see other things. But these are the guys that I'm looking closely at to get my card started this week.
All right, rapid fire. I put this together here for you. Didn't even give you a heads up or anything along those lines. Right? So this is not set in stone. It was just to highlight matchups by all means. So I think if you take this out, a guy like Ricky Fowler would pop for the better value, especially if we're looking at him winning outright, and we've stayed away from both Burns and Kirk, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem at Ricky in that. I don't really like Burns, and I think Burns will be artificially inflated because he won here. He putted really well that week. Grillo, I'll be honest, I like more as an outright than a three ball bet, because I think if Grillo doesn't have it and his putter freezes, you're completely cooked. That's a tough one, man. Hovland, Sanjay, and Homa.
Notice that was not highlighted. I stayed away from that. Homa, you never know. Like, he could be building and building, but at the same time, he's been up and down a little bit. Now, this is a tough one for you because you have both, but I'll take the 10 points for Bez in this three ball here. I stayed away from Denny putts.
Yeah.
I like Morikawa here. I know he's the favorite, but
yeah. So this is an interesting thing that DraftKings does. Again, these are not real three balls. These are like, we're going to put three guys that basically project the same, and you just have to pick. So it is a little difficult to do, but I kind of like it. And yeah, I think it's all about upside versus, how often are they hitting their top 20s? A guy like Fleetwood, you've talked about, really consistent, hasn't shown that top end gear just yet, seemingly for hundreds of starts. But I like Ricky, and of all the ones we've talked about, even in three balls, I think Ricky will play well. And I don't really like Kirk or Burns this week.
All right. Anything else you want to get out, my friend, on the way out here? The Discord, if people want anything more to follow along throughout the week, the best place to do it is on our Discord. We're going to give you half off the first week. Click below. There's that link. You can ask Ben anything and everything. You can DM him. He is fully accessible in the world of golf, and we'll make sure, right? Am I speaking out of turn?
Certainly not. No, listen. Again, we have a great community here at Odd Shop. We're growing quickly. You just want to be part of it. If you want more access, if you want to hang out with like-minded people, just a fun community to be around. We're sweating bets. We're trying to cash tickets, and we're just having a blast. We've got that. We've got tools. Again, the links below, they're for you guys. Not every one is going to be what you want, but some of them could be really useful for you. So take 30 seconds and click the description and see what we're offering. There are free trials available. There are Discords available. There are promos available. And that's what we need, because the U.S. Open will be here before we know it. And obviously, Charles Schwab, no weeks off on the PGA Tour, my friend.
Not at all. At JazzRaz DFS, at Shander Show for me. And on that note, we will see you next week as the work continues. Ben, as always, man, anything else you want to get on the way out? Thumbs up, subscribe, be part of this community. You know the drill out there. You know the drill out there. Good luck. Enjoy. Any questions? Twitter handles are on the screen. Talk to you guys next week.